All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Stephanie with Audacity, and I am here with our speaker spotlight. So, what we're doing leading up to Audacity 2025, which is our digital women's empowerment conference coming up on February 14th. We are speaking with the speakers. So, you can get to know them and find out what their stories are and all the important things they have to say. So I'm here today with the amazing fashion designer and artist, Wildy Martinez, and she is going to join us for a quick little chat about kind of, a little bit about her and her story and why she does what she does and why you should care, I guess, right?
Excellent. I guess people should care.
People should care about what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I'm Wildy Martinez, and I'm excited to be joining again this year at Audacity 2025. I joined last year, which was really cool. It was in the metaverse, like metaverse and also Zoom.
Yep.
Are we doing it like that this year too?
Yes, yeah, we're going to do a
Yeah.
hybrid again.
Yeah, so it's really fun. If you've never been in the metaverse, this is a cool day to do it because we're all there and there's guides to help you. You could create your avatar and like join us and experience the metaverse for the first time in a very inviting way, which is always fun. But I was so inspired last year. But yeah, I'm an artist, fashion designer professionally for many years, and also an artist for many years, but I joined the Web3 space as an NFT artist, a digital artist in 2022, which is kind of crazy that it's been 3 years. I was sharing my fashion illustrations on there and getting to know communities and communities at the time like Meta Angels and Hug, and I met you guys and met so many women. And then I think as an artist, um, the moment I think that I felt like now that I found myself as an artist, because it's I think artists develop and find their voice, and it's a process, and it's okay to restart and change your voice again. But I think when I felt that moment of like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, was when I decided to share my personal journey with vitiligo, which is a skin condition, autoimmune disease that turns your skin and it removes the melanin from it. So I started to lose my melanin when I was at the age of 20, I would say 24, 25. And I have what's called, I believe it's called universal vitiligo, where I just lose all my melanin. It doesn't stay in one spot. So I think right at this moment I am almost 100% depigmented, which means that I'm losing all my brown. But in the years of me really having that contrast in my skin, like big decade where my I was losing my pigmentation on my hands, and where people could see the contrast, I did hide a lot under my clothes, under makeup, and I would put makeup on my hands. And I work in the fashion industry, so I knew how to style myself. There's probably photos of me wearing like a cute scarf and on my neck because I started losing it. And I just lived this life of not really finding, not really free, literally in my skin. And where, I mean, there were conversations about vitiligo, and I would see people with it, but 10, 15 years ago, especially being in my 20s, in my top of my career in fashion, and I didn't really have the support system. I didn't really have the voices of like, hey, it's okay. It was more of like, what can we do to make it not spread? What can we do to hide it?
Mm.
And 2022, 2021, 22, I decided to add vitiligo on one of my art pieces called Wildflower 38. I turned 38 years old, and the cool thing about Web3, especially in Twitter X, is that you do have, it's a global audience in Web3. It's people from all around the world. You have almost like this networking and resources on another level because it is a new technology where artists that are well known are joining as well. So you're kind of like in this even platform with people who are well known, and you could reach them, and then they can share your work. So that piece did get shared, and it was collected by Alexandra, who was one of the co-founders of Meta Angel, then the Hug, and she really like she shared it with her community and the Hug community and the Meta Angels community, and then I I remember she reached out to me. She was like, "I was waiting for you to mint it. I love this piece so much." She was the first one to bid on it. I mean, and it just like meant so much to me, and that piece of work allowed for the conversations to begin around why I did it. And it was my first time sharing my story, and that I do have vitiligo. And so that year when I turned 38, I also had left New York City. I moved to North Carolina, which is where I live now. I felt like no one knew me here. So I was like putting my bathing suit on, going to the pool, like years of not feeling comfortable wearing a bathing suit and like hiding. And now I'm like, I'm in a new place. I'm starting fresh. I'm creating art about this. And art really helped me have freedom in who I am, and to, I don't know, just it just, I know it sounds silly about clothing and going outside and showing your skin, but it that moment when my art was collected, it just made me feel like, what else have I not been doing because of my skin, or because of you know, these I don't want to say weaknesses, but these things that are not perfect, that I've just been using it to keep me from embracing all that I am. And that's when I started like really honing into my name, Wildy, and wildflower fields, and you know, quoting in a field of roses, you're a wildflower. Like really embrace those things that set you apart. And the moment I did that, my life changed. I mean, I just had so much freedom. I started creating another collection called the Freedom Garden, where I would illustrate. And each journey I was in my acceptance of who I was, like the first one was called Libertad, which means freedom. The second one was called Confidence, which is the confidence you feel when you are accepting who you are and not apologizing for it anymore. So it's been like art and my story really, you know, are together. And it's been a journey, because then of course with, in the digital space, there's also this love for technology. So artificial intelligence came along, and I fell in love with it as a fashion designer, of course, because it's an amazing tool for me to create, but also because it was challenging me to, how can I expand my why using artificial intelligence? And I have a mentor, Michael, who's amazing, and I joined a workshop, and it's like, what's the problem that you're seeing within AI? And I was like, I don't see myself. I don't see vitiligo. It doesn't recognize what that is if I write that word, and it's not trained in that. And he was like, what are you going to do about it? I'm like, I don't know. So I started to investigate and learn how to train my own AI models, and became one of the first, I think the first AI fashion designer for AI Fashion Week to represent the vitiligo community.
Wow.
Um, and so, yeah, so it's been a very fulfilling, I guess, experience, that this thing that I was hiding for so long, or was so ashamed of, is really what is become such a superpower, not for myself, but for other people who hear my story, who might, maybe they don't have vitiligo, but they might have something that they feel insecure about, especially as women, where we're like, even before this talk, I'm like, oh, I'm not ready. I don't look my best today, you know? And it's like, why do we do that? Like, why do we, you know? And I know why. It's because unfortunately the beauty standards placed on women for centuries are very unrealistic.
Patriarchy.
And yeah, and it's just like, why can't we find our freedom, and just show up as ourselves? And so it's so funny that that's the first thing that I said, was like, oh, you know, I wasn't ready, I don't look that good, and that talk. And I guess for me, adding vitiligo to my artwork is for a personal, very personal way of me almost going back and forgiving myself, like self forgiveness for being so hard on myself and not loving myself. And it's a very emotional, I'm not crying, it's a very emotional thing.
Yeah.
And going back and saying, like, I loved you then, talking to
Mhm.
myself, and I love you now, and I'm sorry that I did that for a whole decade. I mean, everything revolved around my skin. Like when I got married, because I didn't want it to be too hot, because I wanted to wear sleeves. Honeymoon, like I became a mom, and I'm like, oh no, I'm putting my Dermablend cream on my newborn baby. So I was like, okay, I won't wear it on my hands. I'll just wear it on. So it's just like whatever it is that's like holding you back. um it probably, it's not something physically, but maybe emotionally, where you're like, oh, I can't do that because what will people say? Or I mean, I can't tell you to rip the band-aid and just do it, because it's a very personal thing. But what I know is there comes a time, I don't know if it's age, where you're like, I can't, life is so short. Like, why am I holding myself back? And I know I'm going to talk about this in our talk next week, where when I talk about a quote that really, I don't know if I should say it now,
Oh, go
Stephanie.
for it. Yeah. Yeah. We want people excited. We want people to hear more
uh,
because it's
so
fascinating.
yeah, one of the phrases that came across my Instagram, I believe, was a Mel Robbins quote, and she has a whole series. I'm reading her book now, Let Them, and there's a quote. She's like, no one's coming for you, like no one's gonna give you this job, no one is going
Mhm.
to do this and that. And I don't know, when I heard that, I was like, it's true. Like, what am I waiting for? I think I just had this mentality of thinking, because I work hard, or because maybe I'm good at this artwork, or that someone's gonna find me
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
say, hey,
Even
even though you're not sharing your art, even though I know, and it's not how it works. You really have to put yourself out there, even doing this, so people can know your story, whether it's through words, through a post, especially if you're an artist. No one is coming, unfortunately. And you have to just kind of have that thing, and have that awareness, not in a victim mentality, like, oh my gosh, no one supported me, but more of like, I need to make this happen,
right.
and I got to figure it out. And even now, like, something that I've learned so much in my journey of being an artist and a speaker, and is that you could do a lot with a little. And I
Mm.
used to think, like, once I get a better computer, once I get like an art a studio, then I'll really do it.
Mhm.
And I did so much on my iPad those first 2 years, and I remember telling I have back then he was 5, and I'm like, please, you gotta be careful. This is the only thing. This is the only thing I could use for like drawing in my art, and if it goes away, like, I can't do this anymore. And everything I did was from my iPad, and
Mhm.
Procreate, which is like, I think one payment of $9.99. I didn't have fancy stuff. Still, I don't have my own studio, and I work from my home. And if you look at my Instagram, be like, oh wow, she's been all over the world, and she's gone down, exhibited here and there. And it doesn't take much. You just really need to grind it out, and use what you have, and then a door will open, then the next one, then the next one. But you have to put yourself out there, and connect with other creators, and share your story.
That's amazing. I know you're busy. We don't want to take up too much of your time here, but I'm just wondering, one of the things we talk a lot about at Audacity is really trying to hone in on what that word means for us, Audacity. And for those of you that don't know, we have a little play on words. We spell it AWE, Dacity. And the idea behind that is, what is that thing that compels you to put yourself out there in the face of criticism, to say, I don't care what people say. I don't care what people think. This vision I have is so strong and so clear that I'm no longer afraid. I have this sense of awe and possibility about what could be if I do push myself. So I feel like for everyone that we talk to, all of these women, there is this tipping point where all of a sudden you're afraid, and then you're just like, fuck it, I'm just
Right.
doing it. Do you have like a specific moment where that was for you, or was it kind of like over time? Because at some point there had to have been something where the way you were behaving, you all of a sudden shifted and said, I'm just going for it. Like, what was that moment
Yeah.
for you?
Well, I think the moment it started, like the when I was interested again, not in art, but when I started using art as like a way of to process thing, was in 2020 during the pandemic. I was like laid off from my fashion, job, and I lived in New York City, and there was so much happening, like especially racially. I'm Dominican, and there's a lot of colorism within our culture. And I did a collection actually of portraits of women, Dominican, dark skin, and kind of celebrating. I wasn't really talking about vitiligo, I was just talking about embracing who you are, embracing our ancestry. And that kind of started me sharing the stories. And then kind of like putting my wetting my feet, but that not going into too
Mhm.
much, because it was very controversial, with especially within my own family, talking about like yeah, we're black, according to
Mhm.
my DNA, because there's so
Mhm.
much colorism that, yeah, it was a way of me kind of like rebelling, and for the first time using art to talk about these type of topics. And then when I moved, I left New York, and really, we knew a few people here, but it was lonely. I was a little bit lonely over here, and I remember I was working remotely, and I got furloughed, and I just felt so stripped away from especially from the identity of being a designer, a fashion designer, for so long. And I
Mhm.
found myself kind of like um, trying to grasp at opportunities that were led by other people.
Mhm.
And I really felt like divinely, like doors were shut and closed, so that I can really believe in myself. Because I think that was one of my biggest struggle, was I did not believe, like, people were seeing my gifting around me, but I couldn't see it, and I
Mhm.
didn't believe in myself. And yeah, I came to a moment where it was like August of 2022. I said, I'm going to do a challenge just for myself, not for anybody, a personal challenge, where I'm going to sketch um, one drawing, one sketch every day for the month of August. And it could be on a napkin. It just has to be consistent. And I don't know why. I just felt like I just want to do something. I don't got a job. Let me just keep myself. So I started, posting art, little doodles, illustrations, quotes. And at that time, it was actually the bear market for NFTs, which I had no idea what they were. But people who were seeing my art on Instagram, and family members, even my husband's like, hey, there's this thing there called NFTs, where you create digital art, or you take your art and you mint it, and it's like in the blockchain, and it's crypto, is Ethereum, and this whole world of like, what? So
Mhm.
then, of course, I went down the rabbit hole of like Gary Vee and YouTube, like, what is an NFT? What do you mean? And at that time, we had royalty as creators. So that collection that I talked about in 2020 that I did was my first collection that I minted as a NFT collection.
Mhm.
Um, and it was collected. And I remember joining the space, how crazy it was. 24-hour spaces, trying to share your work. You're on Twitter 24/7. It was insane. And I remember I was like, you know what? Like, if this is something I should keep doing, I need another sign, because this is a lot. And am I crazy? And that night, I sold one of my artworks. Somebody bought it. They sold it for 3 times as much. Somebody else bought it and sold it 3 times as much.
Wow.
And I woke up and I was like, oh wow, like this is, I've never, and those were the pieces that I created in 2020 of these women,
Mhm.
portraits of women. So then I think again, my art, sharing my art and having people receive my art, and then people kind of, and not that we should do something for the approvals of others, but the same reason why I create art, so others can feel seen, is
Mm-hmm.
good feeling seen as well.
Mm-hmm.
Artist, I think that's NFTs really was kind of like the thing that helped me gain confidence, the Web3 community, because then, I was getting exhibitions and going to show my art in Times Square, and everything happened so fast, and I just got these opportunities that in the traditional art world I would never receive. I
Right.
was doing it just a year later, just a year of working on my art, and that really encouraged me to keep going. And then one of the other things that like shifted was the DMs, people messaging me saying, "Hey, my daughter has vitiligo," or "My son has vitiligo," or "I have vitiligo." Even last week, I did spaces, and someone was just so emotional. I knew this person, but not didn't realize the effect that my art had on them and their daughter. And she was like, "You have no idea. You have no idea what we did for the confidence for my daughter, who's 19 and has something else." And just thanking me for sharing my story. And I think that's the thing. I think a lot of us, mm, we don't realize the power of our story, and we just think, "Oh well, it's just something that's happening to me, or it's not that big, but it's huge." And the more you share it, the more it gets out there, like we were saying, and the more people get touched, and then you realize, "Oh wow, like how selfish am I to not share, or to just be like, I'll just do my little art and keep it here and not share this part of me."
Mm-hmm.
That is the reason why I feel like I create, which is that the celebrating the things that set us apart.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. I'm going to do a quick little wrap up and then we'll let you get back to work. But I just want to encourage all of you women out there, grab a ticket. Still, we have the early bird prices available, audacityhq.com. You'll hear Wildy as well as other incredible women speakers that we've had the privilege of getting to know over these past few years. Share their stories. I mean, the common theme through all of them is that they are, taking some sort of something, self-doubt or some sort of transformation, something they need to overcome, and turning it into something larger than themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that is something that we just had a conversation about the other day, Wildy, about, that representation. If you're trying to find a community of women, whether women that look like you or operate in the same spaces as you, it's sometimes hard to find that. There's a lot of like corporate, like networking kind of groups, which isn't
Mm-hmm.
quite the vibe. There's a lot of like self-help and support groups, which isn't quite the vibe either. What we're trying to do is like find a community of women who are doing things for themselves, reaching for the stars, doing these big things. And then we get to be able to have you all in front of other women for a transformational experience, so women can say, wow, look at what she's doing. If she can do it, I can
Right.
do it. And that's the thing is we don't realize what we can do until we see someone else doing it.
Right.
That's really probably a lot of the heart of what we're trying to do with this summit again this year is, finding women that are inspirational, doing these amazing things so other women can go, wow, look at this, she can do it, I can do it. So give us all like that rising, I always say rising tides lift all boats, right?
Yeah, no, and thank you, you and Natanya, for like having this vision of, they have their stories. Now let us help them share it, across different mediums and through this event, and encouraging us to do that. And yeah, I love what you guys are doing, and I'm so excited to. I think I'm the closing speaker
You're the
this.
closing speaker this year. Yep.
So
Yep. So
that's
Audacity
exciting. Hopefully
2025.
people can, I mean, hopefully people can stay.
Yes. Yes.
all
So
through
9
it.
to 5 Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
So you'll be at the tail end. So definitely, even if you're attending and you have to leave and come back, make sure you come back because Wildy has a great story that everyone should listen to.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for
Thank
having
you. We love you. Thank you so much for being a part of the
me.
chat.
You're welcome.
Bye.